10 minutes. You bastards get 10 minutes of my time because that is the only thing I am capable of doing. I would like to introduce you to why your existence is so dreadful. It is due to the Markov process. This process essentially states that this this process states that the position that something is in is dependent on the thing where it was passed. God, this would be a great thing to have as a definition, but I don't. I don't have it as a definition, and you get me, which is unfortunate for everyone, I believe. Nonetheless, it's a person's identity. How should I say this? A Markov chain is a mathematical system that transitions between states according to fixed probabilities. That's a load of rubbish, but it's easy to explain in a coin toss almost. That um, a coin's a coin's the probability a coin is head is not dependent at all on the previous probability that it was tails. The future the future state of the coin only depends on the current state. The past does not matter except to create the the current situation it is in. And identity and personal identity is great in this because you can conceptualize yourself as someone who is someone who is a moment. You can conceptualize yourself as someone who exists for that single day, and your future actions depend on your actions now, but the person you are now does not depend on the person you once were. Rather, the person you once were is a the person you once were has led to the person you are. And and think of every single time you uh, no, I don't have to say anything more. I want to focus on the Markov chain and personal identity because I think that if we look at how we feel in our current mood, shaped by our yesterday's experience, will determine how we experience today's mood. But it doesn't have to be that way. That your identity is a probabilistic process rather than a fixed essence where the sense of self, you are not fixed. You're not fixed at all. You're a moment in time whose future moments are variable and whose past moments are already predetermined, and therefore there is no probability in that. Where you change when you start moving towards something. So like, why should this matter? Why should it matter that who you once were exists and who you are now is based on your past self, and and your future self is dependent on where you are currently. That's that's something I'm not entirely sure of. Could we say could we say that the factors we have, the factors that create ourselves, the factors that create ourselves are determined. Oh, this has something to do with determinism as well. Uh, take that how you will. But because the past is already determined, the future is not determined, and 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 anything we believe in as us is just a 5 to 10 minute. God, I hate this. Can you? can you imagine looking at yourself and thinking you hate yourself? It's oh, that's dreadful. But like I don't hate myself. That's this is the Markov principle and personal identity. That's what this is about. It's that. Would you like to hear something that isn't mine, but I'll quote as mine? Our identity evolves with each probabilistic landscape defined by our current constraints. If we change our current constraints, then our probabilistic landscape changes as a result of that. The future of our identity is not preordained, and by changing the constraints we currently are in, we change the probabilities that our identity could be. And I think that is one of the most eloquent things I will say about this. But I have to speak for 4 more minutes. So you'll have to forgive me. We tell ourselves stories about ourselves that one day I was an introvert, or rather, I should say, yesterday I was an introvert. And today I will also be an introvert because of my actions yesterday. But I think it would be better to focus as our authors who one day we were not the type of person who interacts with someone because they're introverted, and the next day we are someone who interacts with someone not because they're introverted, but despite it, or maybe we change our narrative to say that we're extroverted. The Markov principle is fundamentally mathematic. It says that in a system where things can only go according to in a mathematical system where things happen as A, B, C, or D, that A, B, C, and D and E, which is where we initially started, can all happen individually of the prior probabilistic whatever it was before. And when it comes bringing mathematical concepts into identity, I think it is helpful because the Markov principle is one of the way that LLMs currently run. And if something is working for an LLM that is making it more efficient, then we need to see it, how it applies to principles in our lives. And I think it's understanding what is effective of, and I think this whole kind of, holy shit, 9 minutes, almost fucking 9 minutes. You see that? I know you do. Taking things that work, not just taking things that worked by other people, seeing how they go about their way is I think the way we're going to move forward in creating new probabilities for ourselves. I think the Markov principle is just one of the ways we can conceptualize the way we live our life. It's one of the frames and the systems we can think about. These are largely my own thoughts um, that I've come just from reading. And yeah, existence is dreadful sometimes. But then you exist anyway, and you see what are the ways you can control your existence. That's what I'm trying to do.